Ex officio.
Bill Spence, member.
Terry Waite, member.
When you're at,
Okay, we have a quorum. We'll start with the review and acceptance of the meeting minutes from the regular meeting of October 10th.
The first request I'd make, Nick, is it possible when you send these minute drafts, could you include the line numbers? Is it possible to do that?
Yes. Yeah.
So I reviewed these and I didn't see any changes to them. Do you want a motion?
Has everybody had a chance to review? Sure.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the meeting minutes of October 10th are accepted as presented. And then we'll go to the minutes for the special meeting on November 6th. This had to do with the proposed amendments, public hearing. I'll just ask ahead of time, has everybody had a chance to read these already? Bill?
Yeah, yes, I did. And I just want to clarify, the meeting lasted just 45 minutes?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry you missed it now.
No. No, I'm not. So it's just a general comment. From reading the minutes as an outsider, it strikes me that there were a lot of objections. But given that the meeting was only 45 minutes long, it just doesn't strike me that was the tone of the meeting. Would somebody comment who was here? I mean, for the review? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
is this a fair representation?
there was a lot of
Question.
discussion.
Right.
I mean, I don't.
Oh,
think there was,
okay.
You know, there's definitely concern.
Was it worth
Especially on
it?
Amendment 2, as I recall, that was
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
greater concern. I don't think Amendment 1 was more clarification, discussion.
right. And I think, you know, the nature of the meeting, we were there to take public comment, not
Okay.
necessarily debate it all night.
All right.
Was it well attended?
Yeah, we can see the public in attendance.
Well, there are any comments?
I have one little bitty thing on line 74. Should be possessive boards implementation.
Last of you.
Sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to ruin your
Nope.
too perfect.
That's on. That's of course.
It is, it absolutely is.
There is an example of one, on line 40. It's simply that the line, it's a sentence, it's not a question mark, there's a question mark at the end of the sentence.
Okay.
I think you're indicating that Mr. Wanger asked a question, but I don't think there should be a question mark there.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 6th as amended.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then the draft minutes for November 6th, downstairs meeting room, town hall meeting are accepted as amended. Morning.
You got my text?
Okay.
Oh, that's fine, Andy got it out.
Okay, I guess the first item we have on the list here is a privilege of the floor item, amendment to Moose Run declaration. Myron?
The issue with the roads was the most recent amendment to the Moose Run Declaration was inconsistent in how we raise our money and socially spend it. Over 2/3 of the properties in Moose Run are on private roads. Very few are actually on the town core roads. So the original 2005 filing indicated that we collect money and we all participate equally in the maintenance of the roads, snow plowing, et cetera, which we've done all along. And we continue to build a war chest, so to speak, for the time when the time comes that we have to join with the town and deal with the roads. This amendment, if the amendment indicated otherwise, that the new six lot development would own and pay for the road themselves, which is, that inconsistency made no sense because it would have created two classes of owners within the same organization. Keeping in mind those 6 new lots are just subdivisions of existing lots that have been in Moose Run since 2005. So all we're doing is requesting that we get everybody back on the same level. Waterville Company was nice enough to propose this amendment, which solves that problem, and we're fine with it. So that brings everyone in Moose Run, current and future, to the same place in terms of who owns what and who pays for what. The comments, Bob?
No, basically, it's just that what we're calling driveways that we're putting in to access those lots would now be the responsibility, the plowing would be the responsibility of the maintenance of the association, because all of those lots will pay the same fees and every other lot pays, so.
Think of it as the Drake's Brook extension has 3 feet private on it. Then the road that's going to be built to service the that's up to 29 lots, 29.12. There's really no difference.
So we have an amendment that we'll file, that'll amend that.
So it addresses the maintenance of the private road to those 3 lots.
It returns to the same language that is in the 2005 declaration that describes what we do with the money we collect, what our responsibilities are.
Okay,
So I thank the Waterville Company for helping solve the problem very quickly.
great. Okay, is there anything that when you present to the board, were you wanting anything from the board?
Okay, so
Fine.
we've been administering to the 2005 document since then. Normally, there isn't any, normally when there's a subdivision, a lot is subdividing, there are lots in Moose Run that have been subdivided over the years, larger pieces. They haven't required any new roads. So that amendment had to do with the conduits and the right of ways and lots of things that had to do with the new roads that hadn't come up before because the lots that were subdivided weren't changing where the driveways were. So we've been through it, and it's fine, it's consistent with the 2005, but Barry's actually the president of the association, so we have 2 out of the 3 association votes that, and the third member is aware. And so we're happy now. We're back to where we were the first place.
Very good. Does anybody on the board have any comments or questions?
I just have a question. I'm not exactly sure. We approved this as a subdivision. If we had known this ahead of time, would we have approved this thing?
I think it addresses what the board was concerned about. The board was concerned about maintenance and repair of the access for those 3 lots that were
Right.
providing, that were on the road. I think that probably if everything had gone according to the way everybody would like, that probably the Waterville Company would have presented the fact that the declaration already addresses that.
Right.
But it came through as an amendment to that, to address the board's concern. But I think either way. it
So
would have
it's
been-
more of
either way, it
an
would have been
oversight than anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we would have solved the problem if we'd have been involved in the process. We didn't see this amendment until over 2 months after it was filed. Which, in the future, organizations like Moose Run with now having 41 lots on it. We've been actively managing this since 2005, and a little bit annoyed that we weren't involved in the process and didn't see the amendment until we asked for it. So, but that's all settled. Everything's fine.
Okay, any other comments from the board? All right, thank you, Tom. Next item is old business. And Tara couldn't be here today because of another engagement. But it was to, I guess, address the zoning amendment hearing. I wasn't at that review, but I did notice something that I think we ought to get corrected at this point. And that is unless I've got an old copy or something, the proposed amendment number 3, the summary. In the second paragraph, it says the setback for any other lot line, side or rear is currently 20 feet, except in cases where C1 property abuts LDR property when the setback currently is 35 feet. Amendment number 2 would change the side and rear setback to 10 feet, except in cases where C1 abuts LDR when the setback would be 20 feet. I believe that should be amendment 3. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's also true of the paragraph above that as well. Looks like it was a cut and paste. Things get changed. Okay, so there was a public hearing held in reviewing these proposed amendments. And so I guess we're here to discuss today whether or not, as a result of that public hearing, there should be any changes to these amendments. Anybody have any comment on that?
I had a conversation with Jenny Lucas after the meeting. She made a comment that the only lots in LDR that abut the village commercial are the 4 lots in Moose Run. She made a request, and certainly I made no commitment, but she said, would the board discuss making an exception for those 4 lots to maintain the 35-foot setback?
I'm not sure I know what you're saying. That she would prefer the 35-foot setback remain in effect on those lots?
Yes.
Okay.
This is where village commercial abuts LDR. there are only 4 lots where that happens. And she said her preference would be that for those properties, the 35-foot setback made more sense. That's her opinion.
Oh,
She
okay.
asked if the board would consider making an exception to allow 35-foot setbacks on those 4
But
lots.
it only
To
affect, but
To
it
remain.
potentially only affects those lots anyway, right? I mean, there's nothing beyond that. And if we,
Well-
we made an exception, why make an exception, I guess is my question. You know, if we just made it 30, if we kept it the way it was, a 35-foot setback, would, you know, across everything, is there anything that's materially changed?
Where village commercial abuts C1,
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
because where all the rest of the village commercial in the town abuts C1. So look, it's too bad that we don't have that large map on the wall any longer. But the,
Hard to.
The zones are on that.
I think she's correct when she says that there are four lots where village commercial abuts low-density residential.
The Forest Knoll 1 and 2 are the other 2 developments that are in village commercial,
Yes.
just as a side point, not directly addressing the point.
Understood.
That might complicate matters. I've kind of taken 4 particular lots and given them special conditions. I'm not sure that's a good way to go. I also have a,
Yes, I would say if Tara were here,
yeah,
she would say that the purpose of this exercise we went through was to establish much better consistency.
And to increase the density.
Yeah, the density has been the objective all along with these amendments.
so I would look at that comment basically as kind of anti.
Amendment 2.
I
As well, the
understand.
revised amendment 2.
I'm merely saying that we have one resident taxpayer who asked for consideration.
Well, I have another one here. This is an email I got from Ray Kocharski. I attended the public hearing on zoning changes on November 6, 2019, and would like to thank the planning board for their time and hard work. I understand the previous study recommended more dense development in the DC and C1 zones. But I believe Amendment 2 and 3 are going too far in allowing denser development. We all like the mountain resort feel and beautiful views that we presently enjoy. By changing the setbacks to 10 feet, future residents will not enjoy the open views we have today. When Green Peak condominium was built, I believe the required setback was 35 feet and changed last year to 20 feet. Imagine a row of buildings 25 feet closer to Snows Brook Road. I hope the planning board considers reconsiders Amendment 2 and 3. Higher density can be achieved without giving up our boulevard-like setbacks in Village, Valley, and Snows Brook roads, respectively. So that would be another one that I would say was.
I said that was the general trend then during the entire meeting. Those people who made comments raised this particular objection.
So this one would, from Ray, would apparently be against amendments 2 and 3.
Right, it's much more.
Yeah, more general.
Terry, I make a comment.
Sure.
Again, in the history of Moose Run, when we came to the town and asked if we could rezone from VC to lower density residential, all of the lots that existed, aside from the tail end of the development, the town wanted that tail end of the development to be available for condos, single family houses. We had no objection to the VC zoning because with the 10-foot setbacks, the zoning that was in VC at the time was not a problem to any of the homeowners. And I don't think it is now. See, we're dropping higher density surrounded by lower density residential houses. And I can just picture, if someone came along and took the 329.23 lots and combined them, that's 2.7 acres, and said, okay, now I want to build a planned urban development, and I've got the zoning that the houses would now be 10-foot setbacks. Well, that would be a whole development of houses 20 feet apart. That's awful close. And it's not in the nature of the rest of Moose Run, and it's not in accordance with the arrangement we had with the selectmen way back when they agreed to change all of the existing sold lots to lower density residential. So that's part of that's where the controversy comes. I think you're gonna find if it goes to a vote in its existing position, then we will be rallying the troops to vote against it.
Well, the frustration is that we've been working for years on how to preserve the core with higher density. And not just because we want to make a radical change to the look of the town, but because looking 10, 20 years down the line, we're going to need that tax base. I mean, the cost of improving the roads is only going to continue to go up. We're looking at water infrastructure that's probably going to need to be addressed. There's so much infrastructure that we're going to need to have more tax dollars for, and to support a thriving business community. If things continue the way they are, I'm not sure what's going to be left of a business community 10, 20 years down the line. So that's our ultimate goal, is looking that 20 years ahead. So we've been batting this around, looking at and that's part of the reason why we asked for the expertise of Tara to come in and help us figure this out. And, you know, the setbacks were her suggestion. And I don't know how else would we create the higher density?
And they're standard. I think that was her other point.
Right, across other towns as well.
Yes.
It's not like we're doing something
We picked
radical.
numbers.
No, the question was, how have other towns in New Hampshire managed to continue prospering?
Right.
And her answer was that the center of the towns become more dense and encourage commercial development. Don't seem to have any problem with respect to lower density residential development around Waterville Valley. It's that the commercial enterprises have not prospered in the manner that was originally expected.
Yeah, but the fact that they've not prospered, I don't think has to do with zoning.
No,
No,
but just
I mean,
whatever the
it's
town
just
can
demand
do,
for services. I mean, nobody's beating on our door and requesting they build anything.
that's correct. And the question was, why not? There are lots of other ancillary reasons. In particular, the strength of the resorts
Right.
business. But what can the town do to encourage more sensible, within the context of the definition of Waterville Valley,
Mm,
Yeah,
how to encourage commercial development?
because that's part of why we've been looking at these zoning changes. So construction would stop being tailored to what the market will bear, because what the market has borne, especially in recent 10, 20 years, is single family homes. And that's why we try to put the brakes on a bit for that commercial center area. So we didn't end up with single family home lots and 1 acre lots all throughout the valley, and then we're done.
Right.
Because then we're really done.
Yes, that's right.
But what we're trying to balance here, I mean, the ultimate objective is to try to keep property taxes as low as possible. Right now, we're very fortunate in that we have, I think, a very favorable tax rate.
But I think, and I would disagree to some extent with what was being said with regard to the increased density and tax for the infrastructure, because Waterville Valley is quite unique in the fact that the infrastructure was built in the beginning to satisfy the needs of quite a larger population than we have right now. And as I'm sitting here thinking, I'm trying to think of how the development of much of the land within the valley would really add to the infrastructure expenses. Most of the expenses that would be involved would be on the private property and would be by the developer himself. So I don't see any great increase in town costs for infrastructure.
And I'm talking about, as costs continue to go up 10, 20 years down the line, it's a multi-million-dollar project to redo the roads now. What is it
Well,
gonna
that's a
be in 20
maintenance.
years?
Yeah, that's maintenance, and I don't think that, other than the regular cost increase because of inflation and so forth, I don't think the cost will increase as a result of more construction, really. I mean, it would to some
I'm not saying
extent,
that
but
it would increase because
yeah.
of construction, I'm saying it's going to increase. And if we continue to have single family home lots, tax rates are gonna go up.
Mhm.
Well, this afternoon, we're going to have a capital improvements budget meeting.
Mhm.
That looking at the capital improvements spreadsheet, it becomes evident that there are plenty of expenses that are coming our way with respect to, in particular, road management. But all of the infrastructure is going to need to be addressed as time ticks by. In other words, none of it stays consistently maintained. Some of it has to be replaced and it has to be projected. So yes, the tax base is a major concern after looking at the improvement spreadsheet. The answer to your question is, commercial development going to solve that problem? Probably not. It's just going to make Waterville Valley a more prosperous place. It comes back to the same old argument all the time, and that is Waterville Valley a town that has a resort attached to it? Or is it a town that's wholly dependent upon the success of the resort?
Well, I guess the question now is on amendments 2 and 3, which apparently are in question. I don't think there was much discussion on amendment 1, was there?
No. it's more
Amendment
questions.
one is, again, like, if we would just go over these to refresh my memory, amendment one was just clarifying language.
Yes,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, definition of
Making
structure and building.
definitions, right.
yeah, the whole business was about whether
Amendment
the building and
two
the structure.
amendment two was what?
Amendment 1
Changing
changed
setbacks.
Well, amendment
For
1
village
changed
For village.
the setbacks in some cases to be
Okay.
consistent. And
Right.
amendment number 2 reduced certain setbacks after that
In
amendment.
village commercial.
Right.
And 3 was for commercial. 1.
Yeah. Amendment 2 and amendment 3 are virtually the same, other than one refers to applies to VC and one applies to,
And the idea.
So
there-
one applies to VC only,
and one applies to commercial C1.
C1.
But they're both essentially
Reducing
the same.
setbacks.
So does reducing setbacks as proposed in amendments 2 and 3 get us to the goal that we were just talking about?
Well, our professional planner seems to think so. He moves us in that direction.
But not if the ratepayers object to it.
Well, one of the issues was that people were confused by the setback being right-of-way setbacks as opposed to edge of pavement setbacks.
Right.
And that the setbacks are actually much farther set back than people are assuming in their heads.
In some cases,
Well, in
Because-
roads, because none of it is from pavement edge, and that's definitely, yeah, the point, yeah.
From the right of
None of it,
Point
it's all
was from-
from the right of way.
Starts from the right of way.
Not from the
And
edge of pavement.
so one of the things I think we need to do is maybe some diagrams to let people know if we're talking much bigger distances. than-
well, this says the front setback in VC district is currently 35 feet from the right of way and of any street and 20 feet from the paved edge of any.
Right, any
road.
internal road,
Internal
right.
road, not the
Right.
Not
Town.
Valley,
public right
Valley
of way,
Road or Smoke Road. This is major
like the
roads.
driveway we just
I
talked
don't
about.
make the distinction between major roads and,
driveways.
yeah,
Driveway.
And what is meant by the front setback in the VC district?
On a major road.
Setback from the right of
right
way.
of way.
from the right of way.
Front setback refers to the distance, the setback distance with respect to the road.
The road right of way.
When the other, the remaining setback discussion is concerning lot line.
Right. So it doesn't refer to the way the building is positioned on the lot at all.
No.
All right. Well, I think the objection always in the VC lots that are in Moose Run is they don't want them closer to the road. You know, those front lots border along that road,
Yes.
you know, and they don't want them any closer to that road. So the front doesn't refer to specifically the front of that road. I don't know, I'm not making myself
Yes.
clear at all.
I
It
think it
refers
does.
to the right of way of that road.
Yeah,
There are two objections, I think, that were raised. One was the front Valley Road to the property in that particular part of BC. And the second objection raised was the lots that are abutting BC on the other side.
right,
That is the whole discussion centered around these new lots that are available with respect to the Moose Run properties,
right.
the ones that exist. That's where the objections came from.
Well,
Is that not correct?
That's the only developable property in town.
Agreed.
All the rest of it is.
Understood.
Might happen in 20 years.
Yes, but I'm referring to the number of people who attended the meeting who raised objections.
Yes, absolutely. We step back for a minute and look at the reality of this situation in this one. If you don't touch the zoning right now, someone who could buy the 3 contiguous lots that haven't been spoken for yet, combine them, and build a condominium complex of as many as 5 Forest Knolls style buildings and add 40 residences at lower prices than anything on the single family side.
Right.
Nobody wants to do it because it's not economic. Nobody will come anywhere. So what,
There was no longer 3 contiguous lots anyway, so one.
29 in the 29s? Yeah. Okay, didn't know that. So that's,
I think it's a moot point. It was me, I just scratched the change because nobody cares. The lots are gonna be single-family house lots.
Mm-hmm.
The setbacks that exist right now are fine. You know, you got an easement for a cross-country trail in front anyway, so nobody's gonna be building close to the road anyway. Leave it the way it is. And all the objections go away from the neighbors.
Well,
We have to look at more than the neighbors. We have to look at BC in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not-
Yeah,
we're
but
not
it
just
only
looking
affects
at
only
these
applies
3
to-
lots. We're
it only-
making a
No, it
rule.
doesn't.
we're
No,
making-
no, it
Yeah.
applies
Only for
to
now.
all of VC, and the rest of VC is not gonna stay the way it is.
Is
for the
there
next
any
100 years.
is there anything rest of BC that's buildable?
No,
Not at this moment, but what about in the
Oh, so
future?
you're saying it's in
Would
case something
be-
gets torn down?
yeah,
Right.
torn down or redeveloped.
Nothing
Can't
is
you
that
look at the
great.
zone, can't
Yeah,
you look at
torn
the
down.
setbacks at that later? Why do you have to look at the setbacks now? It's not a problem today.
No, no,
And
no.
then
Well,
5 years
we
from
need to
now.
do a good job of justifying it, explaining it, why we're doing it, because we have great reasons for doing it. And also diagramming the right of way versus edge of pavement, because I think that's the giant misunderstanding, is that people think we're talking about right on the street when we're not. So I don't think we've explained ourselves well enough yet. And I think that's what's been made clear.
I think that the giant misunderstanding is you're right, people don't understand why you need it. There are no businesses, so we make all these zoning changes and we sacrifice, you know, the types of, I guess the ideal, the general consensus is what Ray said in his email. Why would we sacrifice this when we can't even fill, like, what's the plan to fill that? Like, we can't fill what's already at Town Square. So who do you think would come in and why would that make it better for them? Instead of just, you know, when someone comes in particularly to let them address the planning board, this is what we want to do, how can we work with the town to do it in this particular parcel? Like the townwide, it's It's gonna be a hard sell, I think. Because people don't understand, and maybe the map would help, but, definitely some more, the almighty buck speaks. So you're doing because we wanna get greater density, right? Greater density means bigger tax base. Am I understanding it correctly? Who's
That's what
gonna
I
come
said.
in and how's that gonna benefit the rest of the population in the town? I think that's another thing that needs to be
Yeah, well,
explained.
what I'm
'Cause it's
hearing,
about the
though,
money,
is a
right?
slightly different story now. What I'm hearing now is that what we anticipate is in the future, there will be some properties torn down, and that it's gonna create on VC land, and that creates the opportunity for those parcels to be redeveloped in some way. And it's on those redeveloped properties that we really want to reduce the distances. Bob says, for the lots that exist on that road, it makes no difference.
Yes.
They're not gonna do anything. So all of this is about the future,
Yes,
about something being torn down potentially.
but our discussions up until today have been about the future.
We want to set parameters for what, we want to be intentional about our future. We don't want it to just let it happen and not the way.
Well, I'm not sure how many people would understand that this is intended to apply to properties that eventually could be torn down and then redeveloped. I always suspect that
It's
many
more
people
than
do
just
not
that.
understand
It's
that.
not just that. And
Well, but that's all that's left.
Well, there's something like 12 acres in VC, right? More than that, I think.
Yeah, but then I'm back to my question of the VC property, 12 acres. Is that developable? I mean, could people, where is it?
Well, most of it, not all of it, is along the eastern side of Valley Road. From Waterville Estates up until you get to the golf course.
So there are
Excuse
other
me,
lots
just prior
other
to
than the
golf
ones that Bob is working with?
No, I'm talking about Waterville Estates, for example, is in VC. That's 4
Right.
acres of VC.
Right.
Forest Knoll, which is also VC, 1 and 2.
Could somebody subdivide those properties and add lots?
Waterville Estates, I assume you could, is 4 acres there, 2 buildings.
Where exactly is Waterville State?
Between this Moose Run.
It's Waterville Place.
Is it Waterville
Waterville
Place?
Place.
Waterville Place,
Sorry,
yes. There is considerable.
Sorry. I get mixed up. Sunrise Hills, Sunset Valleys, I mean, it's
You're allowed.
especially early in the morning. I mean, we voted to propose these amendments and we had a public hearing.
Right.
The question is, if we do want to make any changes, then we'll have to have another public hearing, of course, to incorporate these changes. That's one issue. Or do we go forward with what we proposed and then present it to the town and let the town make a decision as to the way to move forward?
And if we do move forward with this, we'd have to explain ourselves better.
Right. Make a presentation and then let the town decide as the sovereign if they agree with our decision to try to get more density in VC and C1, although that doesn't seem to be any.
Yeah, it was against C1 also.
Oh, that's right. Ray's comments
It was
about
both two.
C1. Correct. Thank you.
How about negotiating?
Well, the public hearing is
That's the negotiation.
that we take our comments.
Don't
few
make any
comments.
changes in VC and make all the changes in C1.
Well, they're just 2 different amendments, so. you could-
Oh, no, that would be,
That's what's proposed though, Barry,
Right.
because it's proposed as 2 different amendments, so you don't have to vote down both of them necessarily. The VC one can be defeated if that's what the town wants.
right. And C1
And
passed.
C1 passed.
As is, if we keep with our decision earlier. So,
Well,
We might raise the point that the purpose, the planning boards look to the future, but it's also to serve the best interest of the residents.
Mhm.
You already have some underlying sentiment come to the surface about the objections to these proposed amendments. That is, putting this before the town now when you already know that there's going to be a political resistance may not be the best move for the planning board.
Although now that we understand what the issues are, we understand at least one way to address the issues. So we have the opportunity to do that this time, because we have
Yes.
a longer period of time than.
A little
last year.
modification might make a lot of difference at town meeting.
Or explaining better.
Sure, do a better selling job.
We did not do a good job of explaining ourselves.
Yes. Well, I think that might be the way we could explain what happened at last town meeting. We didn't do a good enough job of explaining.
The
What-
benefits.
That's right.
Potential benefits. Yeah, I mean, there's potential benefits,
Okay. Maybe we should talk about these amendments some more.
yeah,
Well, I think
I mean,
we've had a public hearing. I mean, we
I
have to
think what they're
decide
saying
whether,
quite
No,
seriously.
that the planning board wants to go ahead with what has already been proposed, or do we want to make
Right.
modifications?
well, to make modifications, then we have to have another.
We've
public
already approved this, right?
Yes, yes, we're discussing the comments that were
Well,
raised at the public.
you only approved moving them to a
Full
public hearing.
We
That's
didn't
right.
approve putting them on the,
That's
Right.
correct.
Right,
That's right.
okay.
We haven't
And we-
gone that far yet.
and we still have time for another public hearing if we do want to make changes.
But I haven't heard anybody suggest what changes you would make, other than to not do it.
It would just be to reduce,
Well,
to
we've had-
increase the setbacks that are suggested. What else would you do other than eliminate?
Don't change.
I'm back to, as I understand it, you can add a public, a planned unit development to this property, all right? If you have over an acre, and we changed that last time.
Yep.
And if you went in the route of a planned unit development, right? You principally can come in and suggest any lot lines you wanted, right?
Yes.
So to me, it's a moot point. I mean, to me, the big change is reducing the PUD to 1 acre. Allows all kinds of flexibility as long as somebody's willing to commit to developing acres for it.
I think that a PUD, though, you still have to abide by the perimeter setbacks.
I don't know. That was my question.
Yeah, I
Is
think
that
that's
true?
true.
I
I think that's true.
Okay,
It's not like unlimited flexibility.
Within the PUD, you can sacrifice the setbacks, but I
Right.
think around the perimeter, I think we ran into that on the earlier submittal.
okay.
Well, then the possibility is that the recommended setbacks could be, recommended setbacks in amendments number 1, 2, or 3, or both, could be increased to assuage some of the resistance, but I don't know if that would do it.
Terry, it is internal
I was correct.
within a PUD.
Thank you very much. I think one of the comments from the audience here was good, and that is it really necessary to do this now? I don't see any urgency.
Agreed.
Except it's our job to plan for the future. And at what point are we only planning for 2 years in the future? If that's our job, then yes, maybe you're right. So we just redefine our job.
Well, if one of the lots has been sold, then there's not a worry about the scenario that Tom brought up. And every year it can be looked at and changed as the need arises.
That goes against, I think, the philosophy that we've been following in all these changes in zoning for the past X amount of months,
Yeah.
Well, it has, and for the most part,
years.
well, for the most part, we've attempted to make the changes. This would be the first one that I would say that we put off.
Well, I mean, it's a matter of a vote at this point. I mean, do we vote to go forward with the amendments as discussed, or do we decide to have another public hearing? And decide what-
Well, I think it's a question of, do you want to do it or not?
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
because I don't see changing it as making any sense at all.
It's removing the
Right,
amendment.
either
Two.
removing the
Well, but
amendment
you
or staying with it.
What about
Right.
amendment 3?
Well, you're supposed to vote on each amendment,
Right,
whether or not
Right.
to move it forward to town meeting.
right.
I would say there'd be greater resistance to number 2 than there would be to number 3.
Well, if people started to think about it, you would think so, that,
I would say it's, like Wendy said, it's our job to do this. And I think we just need to do a better job explaining why we're doing this, and then people can vote on it. I mean, I don't think that the arguments against it are irrational. I don't think our arguments for it are irrational. I just think we need to do a better job of making arguments for it. And let the town decide.
I think we're trying to weigh benefit, in particular, amendment number 2, versus political resistance and cost. It is, how much do we gain by pushing forward on amendment 2? Amendments 1 and 3, I think, would pass at town meeting.
Well, I don't know, probably amendment 1, but I don't
Well-
think we should look at it that way necessarily.
right, well, I think that's part of the consideration.
Yeah.
It did get turned down last time. And it essentially is trying to come back at the same issue in another way. It's different, I mean.
Yeah.
But you're gonna lose some of your credibility as a board after a while, people are gonna, the risk is they're gonna look at these and say, I don't care what the planning board does, I'm gonna turn it down.
That's what I mean by political
That's-
cost.
Yeah,
But that's,
that's the political
Irrational.
cost.
Yeah,
what's
that's
rational
where-
is for us to explain ourselves better, because I think we didn't do a good job. I think we need to diagram out right of way. It's not a natural thing that people.
I don't think,
Understand.
I respectfully don't think that we're even on the issue. I mean, the reality is that particularly when you get to amendment number 2, there is very little property that's left developed, and it's the comment of one person. Could you just leave these 3 lots alone? That was the objection.
That was one of them.
Yeah, well,
There were several at the meeting.
oh, okay.
But that one
one, there was
particular
a front.
And
one,
what were
That
the
occurred-
other objections
The
at the
front.
meeting?
The lot line from the setback, from the front, and also Ray's objection, overall philosophical objection,
Right.
Well, the thing is,
which includes C1.
for proposed amendment number 2, the first part just deals with the front. And I think that we can explain better with the right of way, and maybe we look at removing the second part so that we keep the setbacks on the sides as they are.
I think maybe we split the proposed amendments and do proposed amendment 2-1 and 2-2 and explain them both. Because one of them is kind of the Ray themed argument about the boulevard like setbacks. And one of them is the neighbor themed arguments about side setbacks. And we need to explain both better, and we might only do a good job with one and not with the other. So my suggestion is to split those and have 5 amendments, not 3.
For
How important is the reducing the side setback when it's against an LDR from 35 to 20? I think that would be, if I had a property adjacent to a VCR, I mean, the VC, that I would be concerned about that.
Yeah, I'd vote against it.
But there may be others in the town who are interested in their tax rate, who may be more willing to accept. I mean, that's what we have to balance.
We do have to balance that to a certain extent, but I mean, how much difference can that make, really? When I think about it.
Yep,
You
that's
can make
the-
an argument either way, though.
Yeah,
How much
that's-
difference
that's
does
the argument.
15 feet make when you're talking about?
Well, I guess in one case, it's a matter of the individual in the LDR and how it makes them feel. In the other
But
case, it's the.
Tara
it's the
was
VC.
recommending these largely on the basis of, when she's looked at every other town, we're the only ones that have these kinds of setbacks in place.
Yes.
I think if you told everybody that, there's an argument of why change these things? You know? We're just inconsistent, you know, with every other town, including, you know, name them all off, people that are concerned about property values, Meredith, right? I mean, their setbacks are substantially less than ours.
Yes.
It makes any sense. So this is basically a correction.
Not even in
That's all this
Wolfboro.
is, to get in line with where everybody else in the world is these days.
Well, it's also to create the idea being, again, our underlying philosophy was to do what we can to help development.
I think when you go off on that tack of saying that we were going to try to make some changes that would encourage more density, more development, people react to that.
Yes,
They
of
don't
course.
want more development. They
Of course.
want all the
Right.
VC property to remain vacant. I think
Perhaps,
that's
right.
what most people want.
Yeah, you get
Right.
right down to it, that's correct.
Our bottom line philosophy on all these changes the last couple of years has been do what we can to look to the future and help where we can to increase density where it will help us in our tax rate as a town. I mean, that's the way we've been approaching it. That's why I think Tara noted that, well, one thing is that you are different from other towns
Right.
in that regard, and this is what I would recommend you do if you wanted to foster greater development. Whether it happens or not is,
We are different from the other towns. We've had these rules, regulations, zoning since the late 60s. Campton and Thornton's zoning is a joke if they have any. Don't have any. So we have very good zoning, and people live here appreciate that. Fine tuning to it is fine, but the notion that people dislike our current zoning is a bad notion.
Right.
That'll fail every time, but they actually like it. When I was, last year, when I was making phone calls to ask my friends and neighbors to vote down the proposal to eliminate all setbacks in BC, they were all, why would we do that? Why would we mess around with the beauty of our little town? What's the benefit to that? Now, there's two sides of the story.
no, I mean, that's what we're trying to balance.
The issue with Moose Run is over. As long as the Waterville company sticks with their plan to allow single-family houses on those lots, it's done.
Well, it's not up to them. I mean, if someone buys a lot, then they
They put a
could
condo on
they
it,
could
yeah.
put a condo on it.
And don't get me wrong.
Right.
We never, Moose Run never had a complaint about that. That was the deal. It can be single-family houses or it can be condos.
Or it could be a commercial enterprise.
That wasn't part of the deal.
No, it's village commercial.
It's
Yeah,
village
but it
commercial.
could be.
Can
Could
be
be. That's,
by the
What-
zoning.
right.
Yes, that's true, but that was never the understanding that we had with the selectmen many moons ago.
What,
No, no,
what
no.
understanding, Tom, did you have with the selectmen? The zoning is the zoning. It can
We
be
asked, we
commercial.
requested that it all be changed to lower density residential.
After it was developed as low density residential. At the time that those houses were built, it was village commercial. It was not low density residential.
I understand. And we
And
asked the question, why do you want it to remain BC? Because you wanted the ability to build condos on it.
or commercial development. commercial development was initially proposed for Moose Run as part of the subdivision when it was approved. When that subdivision was approved in 2003 or 4, whenever it was, there were businesses that the developer represented to the planning board would be built in that development as part of the development.
And none of them have ever.
Well, they haven't materialized because the market changed. But the
So
bottom
they-
line was
they
it was
materialized.
zoned, it was all zoned village commercial because the town had wanted commercial development in the center of town. That's what we're talking
No,
about.
I disagree with that. I mean, this was on BC a long time ago because it was originally envisioned that Stowe's Mountain would be developed and there'd be a ski village up there or something.
Right,
I mean, that's the reason it was zoned BC. That plan hasn't existed in 25 years, 30 years.
but the possibility for that to happen for whatever developer came forward was still there. That was the concept of the village center.
There are two discussions going on here that I think have taken us a bit away from
Yeah.
what's in front of us. One is whether or not there was an understanding. I mean, I think all we have to go on is what it is. It is zone village commercial and what's allowed in village commercial. If there was an understanding, that to me that becomes more of a follow-on legal issue between the town.
Well, it's not a legal issue. At the time, there was we were unaware of any commercial operation that ever wanted anything to do with.
No, I'm not saying that anyone wanted, but I'm just saying it's zoned as village commercial, which
Yes.
allows commercial
It does.
development.
It does.
But I'm saying that's the side, which leads me to the second place we're going, I think, off track, which is, what you're talking about is rezoning. You don't want it village commercial.
No.
That's a different question than what we have in front of us.
Well,
We're fine with village commercial, we've known it would be village commercial. We
Okay,
never in our
well-
wildest imagination thought anybody would want to put a store there.
They may not want to, but they have the possibility.
They have the
Well,
right
I
to.
think it's moot. With us, that's moot.
Okay,
Bob-
well
Bob
then-
has said it's.
then I'm not sure what
he's
we're
selling
talking
the
about
lots, he's
then.
gonna
that's
kill-
that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're talking about.
What we've got is 3 amendments here we can look at.
That's right, that's I think what we want to do.
Now, to Bill's point, where he's saying that these changes recommended by Tara would bring us more in conformance with other towns in
Right.
the state.
I thought that's the way she came up with it.
Yes.
So I would suggest,
And move us
I would
towards.
suggest that being the case, that we don't alter them. We either take them as they are
Right.
or shut
Well, I would
shut
agree
them
with that.
down. Why would you change them? Because then we still wouldn't be consistent with the other. If
But
that's
if
part of
well,
your
if
argument.
we split number 2 into 2 separate though, is that changing per se, is that enough? For
But
the
that
public
just
hearing?
gives people what, the chance to vote one down and accept the other?
Right,
Which is what I think would happen.
it gives
It
us,
breaks it down to the front setbacks and the side and back setbacks.
and it gives us better guidance as to,
But the truth is, we want both of them to pass, right?
It makes more
Yeah.
sense to me. I mean, otherwise, why go through the exercise?
Yeah, once
Right.
again, you still
Well, I
would
don't
be different than the other towns. If you
Right.
set this up to be like the other towns and that's your reason for doing it.
Well, the reason is
Should
to
be
foster development in the town core.
Yeah, well, right, I just find the link that
Okay,
that's gonna
that's-
happen as a result of this.
But
You know,
I'm
Tara
agnostic myself on it.
made the presentation
Right.
about the comparison between Waterville Valley and other
Right.
towns that have prospered. And it was a convincing argument.
Right,
And that when we listened to it, members of the board thought that
right.
we should, get with the program and see if we can become more attractive as a commercial enterprise. In other words, to have some of aspects of Waterville Valley, not all, but some aspects of Waterville Valley attractive to commercial interests. That was the persuasion of the argument. On the other hand, I don't see the purpose of proposing amendments if we know in advance that there's a strong possibility that they be voted down. We should be proposing amendments that we know have a high probability of passing.
Well,
We
you
don't,
never know for sure.
we don't know.
Okay.
I mean, we know we need to do a better job of explaining ourselves. We know why the neighbors don't like the side setbacks. And
Why at least one person expressed concern about
front
front as well.
setbacks.
Yeah.
And so we know what we need to do to explain ourselves
We
better.
can say
And
address it.
we need to put ourselves out there, and I think we should split it up and make our best arguments and do the best we can
Okay,
based on
and
the
the chips fall where
knowledge.
they may.
Right, based on what,
Pretty
because we
much it.
believe that Tara was right. So I think we have to do what we think is right for the town. I don't think we should not do it because we think it might get voted down.
It's just a question of whether we're here to serve,
The
we
best
just don't
interest of the
have enough
town.
data about what people think.
Right.
But we're doing this for the best interest of the
We
town,
have the
not.
data.
Okay.
Yeah, not current.
And so we just need to do the best job we can as volunteers for the best interest of the town. I think that's our job.
I would propose that we just call for a vote on all three.
Do you want to take them separately?
No, I think we have to.
Can we,
Yeah, do-
how do we vote if we want to split two into two parts and three into two parts?
You'd have
That's
to write the
Proposed
two
to
parts.
make a
It already is
proposal,
in two parts.
suggest the
You
amendment.
have two
But
different
to
things to vote
split
on.
it as,
Oh,
so
I
that it's
see.
on
Would that
the
require
ballot
another
as
public
two.
Well,
meeting?
one, two, quick.
That would
Absolutely.
require another public hearing.
Absolutely, you'd have to have another public
Public
hearing.
hearing.
Yeah,
You could vote to move 1 and 3 forward as is, and then split number 2. Tell Tara to come up with language for 2 amendments, and then hold a public hearing in December on the 2 amendments.
Nancy, are you talking about splitting our number 3 as well?
Well, I mean, if the issue is, like Ray said, boulevard like setbacks, why wouldn't we split number 3 also?
It wouldn't be as, say, likely, as the objection, I don't think applies to C1.
We don't know.
Why not?
because no
talking
one
about-
abuts C1. The reason is people are voting you're getting comments based on, I
Self-interest.
live here.
They're
You
voting
know,
their
I don't want that
self-interest.
next to me.
That's
What
not,
else is new?
that's not what,
Right.
that's not what he was talking about. He was talking about the front setback. That was his issue, Ray's issue. And, the front of C1, it fronts.
Valley and
roads.
Village.
So it is in fact exactly, what he was talking about. And so it would make sense to. split.
But you could end up with, if you split both, you could end up with VC says, okay, front, not change the side, and then C1 could be flipped the other way around.
I would,
I would leave that.
C1 is a self-contained, it's surrounded by town roads.
Yeah.
If you look at all of the C1 properties
Yes, it
are
is.
surrounded by town roads. So it's easy to speak to those and talk about the setbacks unique to C1. Whereas you have this low-density residential bordering BC, that's the thought process of separating them out so
Yeah.
that people can make a decision on whether or not they want to have differing setbacks.
I think, I would disagree. I think that if you're gonna go with the change to, that it should be to make it consistent with the other towns. I don't see the purpose of splitting it up. Having a,
Well, because if we're sacrificing the 15-foot setback on the sides to be able to gain more setback in the front, then it still achieves part of our goal.
But amendment number 2 doesn't talk to any changes in the front, off the major roads.
Yeah.
It only talks side and rear.
you're talking about 2-2.
I'm talking about 2-1.
Oh, okay.
If we can get
All right,
2-1
I
to
got
pass,
you.
we're partway there.
Well, all right, then I guess the first thing we should look at is amendment number 1.
So I propose we move it, you're looking for the,
Yeah,
well, I propose we move it to town meeting for a decision of vote. As is.
to move to town meeting, is that the proper wording? Moving to town meeting for, okay, the vote.
As is.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, amendment 1 passes with regard to putting it in front of the town for a vote. We'll go with number 3. Amendment number 3 is for C1, and it speaks to both the front setbacks and the side and back setbacks. Any further discussion on that?
We just need to make sure that clarification is changing the 2s to 3s.
Did you want to do the, oh, yes, right, I'm sorry, you're right. Did you get that, Nick?
Yep.
Okay. An amendment to amendment number, or change to amendment number 3 would be to correct the wording in both 1 and 2, to change the word amendment number 2 to amendment number 3 in both 1 and 2. With that, can we have a motion?
Okay, I'll move to make the changes as Terry suggested.
And bring the proposal to it.
Bring the proposal
To
on
a town
3
meeting
to
for
a
a vote.
town vote.
I propose or move to adjust the amendment number 3 as Terry suggested, and to put amendment number 3 before the town for a vote.
Can you get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we're at number 2. And does anybody want to make a motion to break it into 2.1 and 2.2?
I guess I will.
We're waiting for you.
Right, I propose to amendment number 2 as amendment number 2-1 and 2-2. And 2-1 would be point number 1. 2-2 is point number 2.
Okay,
And they have to be separate votes.
2 separate amendments.
Now, this would require us to have a public meeting
Right, in
in
December.
December to, because we're changing what we have proposed.
Yeah.
So we're proposing to split amendment
Correct.
2 into 2 separate proposals for town to consider.
Right.
Okay. Did you get that, Nick?
Yep.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I
Opposed? Nay.
I'm nay.
Nay.
All right, we'll have to do a, was that, okay,
I think it's
let's go roll call.
no.
No,
yes.
No.
No.
Alright, so
So we have number
And
2.
I would make an amendment to basically, I would make a motion to that amendment number 2 be put on to move it to town meeting. Just the way it is.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
why?
I don't think, I think if you
That's the
can come up with
town
an explanation as to, if you're, I mean, obviously the sentiment of this board is that this is a good change. If you can explain yourself, it'll get passed. I mean, the problem was last time, nobody tried to explain it. It was too complicated.
I
If you
think-
don't explain these things, there's no chance of them ever going through. People will just vote them down. And it makes no difference whether you split it or you don't split it.
You run the risk of one bringing down the other. We ran into that before.
Right. Well, that's true.
Well, we just voted not to split it, so
Yeah, but
there's
it's,
another amendment to change the language, to remove.
I mean,
agree
your
with-
your
I agree with
argument
you.
is it doesn't affect enough to worry about.
That's my argument.
Yeah, yeah, now, it's a minor effect. The big change is the VC. There's very little property left to be developed in this, that fits in this criteria.
That's, yes, that has, but not including redevelopment.
Right.
Potential.
That raises the argument of opportunity and benefit versus cost. And why do it?
I-
Here you.
Well, it's unclear to me whether dividing it up is actually, well, we already decided.
We've
against
decided
it.
not to.
Yeah.
We decided not to
We
do
decided not to do that.
Yes,
So
So
let's
the
either
motion on
do
the
it or
floor
not
is
do it.
to bring it to the,
bring it to the
Bring it to
town,
town meeting.
as you say, and then if let the town decide how best to approach it. What their decision is,
Well,
what we do.
you're gonna have to explain it. I
Yeah,
mean, you're
no, I
gonna
agree.
have to really
Right.
go in and do a sales job. on
Yeah.
this.
Yes, because you're
Yeah.
proposing what is already has resistance.
You're proposing what got turned down last time.
Yes.
Right.
Well, that's how.
Well,
This is a
exactly.
different, this is a. this is-
Yeah, but the
It's close.
sentiment,
It's the sentiment,
yes.
you know, sentimentally, it's pretty much the same thing.
For those who oppose the
Right.
previous one.
My argument in total is it's perception versus reality. And trying to overcome perception in a situation where you're asking people to vote who don't have much background, who don't come to these meetings, who don't debate these issues.
Right,
We don't
it's
know
really
what-
tough. It's
What I'm
very,
talking
very
about,
tough.
it's that the perception is this is not a good thing for Waterville Valley, vote against it.
Right.
That's all that's needed.
Well,
then
right,
that's-
yeah, if you
that's
get
how
a
it
couple of
goes.
people that make a campaign out of it, you're dead.
I agree.
But there may be others who think differently.
Of course.
Either we stand by the amendment that we thought was worthy of standing by or not because of public comment that we've heard so far. I would vote, I would agree with you. Bring it to a vote.
You don't think it's beneficial to at least get half of what we're.
I don't know if that
in terms of
is the way to
front
approach,
setbacks?
frankly. I think if it goes down, then we relook at it next year and see if there's another way to approach it. I'm not sure, I mean, I don't have the technical.
Well, I think
expertise
you
to
leave it, I mean,
understand.
the alternative is to just leave it alone because
Or we
it
leave it
doesn't
alone.
affect very much.
Or-
I mean, that's the argument.
Well,
We're making a change here that affects nothing. And I would start with that argument. We're making a change here that really affects very, very little in reality.
That's right. Reality versus perception.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not convinced of that argument, but we have.
Well,
proposed,
yeah, I would, the only argument I'd make, but
okay, we have a motion on the floor to forward proposed amendment number 2 to the town for a vote. All in favor?
yeah, well, I proposed it. I'll vote yes.
Opposed? Nay.
Opposed?
All right, so,
Terry, what's your vote?
yeah, so that does not pass.
So we have nothing with regards
Right.
to.
Well, we-
Number 2 is out.
Number
Well,
two is
if number 2 is out, you could
I want to push
You
harder.
could bring it
that-
up to Tara to make a change, and we could vote on it again if
I
that's
don't
the
think we'll
case.
have,
Or the third option we haven't talked about is just to strike number 2 from it and just go forward with number 1.
1 and 3.
No,
No,
no.
no,
One
The
and
fir-
three.
for
What do you
the
approve?
first-
Three.
The first part of number 2.
I
I'm
see.
saying the third way we could go forward with amendment number 2 is to leave off the second part of number 2 and leave the first part that addresses the front setbacks. That's the third way we could go.
We'll put it on the agenda to
well, we have to,
bring it up next week, next month with Tara here.
Do we have enough time to do that?
No.
no, well, we need to,
Well, you will have to have
Well, I think you
if you
did.
move forward an amended number 2 now
Right.
with different language, you have to have another public hearing. You will have to have a special meeting in December or beginning of January to do that, I believe. I mean, we can check with Tara on the timing, but pretty sure you'll have to have a special meeting. Because I think the deadline for getting it done is before your January meeting.
So
And
so-
especially if you
Well,
don't
what-
have language, because
Tara-
we don't have anything to post right now.
Right.
So we can't do the public hearing at your December meeting because there's no language.
Unless if we went through, I
Unless
mean, is
you
it worth doing
move
the
forward
vote
with the
for this
language.
third way? If anyone support doing that? Well, you can have the second bit.
You know, can I ask the neighbors who come here, do you guys have any objections to the front setbacks at all? I'm just wondering, you haven't really spoken about that.
I align more with Ray's philosophy in his letter. I like the way the valley looks and there's a lot of space in your commercial district that can be developed within the existing setbacks that get you to your goal. But my personal letter was really just strike part 2 of Amendment 2. I'm like, pick your battle. So that's the one battle I wanted to pick. You know, taking on everything was counterproductive to a small community working together. So there has been no connection of the dots for me between how reducing side and rear setbacks in the minuscule number of lots gets you any denser development. They're being sold as single family homes. Some of them might remain empty lots when people buy them as buffers if the reduction goes through. So you can't, there's no way you can connect those dots for me, how reducing those setbacks get you a higher tax base and denser development.
Right.
You can try, but I don't see it. And I'm pretty smart, I think, but so. And
Tom, Jim.
From a political point of view, I don't think you want to lose 2 years in a row. Put forth 1 and 3, they'll pass, then rethink what you want to do in the VC land after Moose Run is happy and nobody cares anymore. That simple. You're asking to lose 2 years in a row. Obviously, you were stung last year because you didn't like losing. I agree, you do a lot of work, put a lot of energy. When I was chatting around the town about, the change for last year, I got comments from Tom Cochran would roll over in his grave if he knew this. To, we have the most unique piece of property in all of New Hampshire. Why are we messing with it without a lot of careful thought? People may not realize this, but in the entire state of New Hampshire, there is one place where you border the national forest, have a great sewage treatment plant, water system, and everything underground. It does not exist anywhere else. So when we talk about comparing ourselves to all sorts of other towns, there is no other town that compares to this town. Simple. Doesn't exist anywhere else. So we need to be really, really careful. Now C1, the core, that's where you want commercial development, that's where you want hotels, that's where you want density. The rest of the place is already done. Now, 20 years from now, when you tear down the Silver Fox and you tear down the North Star and you tear down, that's a whole different matter. And right now, if somebody tore down the North Star and wanted to do something different, the zoning board of adjustment would probably be very, very helpful. There'd be no reason to be argumentative if you wanted to make some amendments for a specific piece of property that's an underutilized piece of land. So that would be my suggestion. Go with 1 and 3 and come back to the other one later. When a year from now, all of the complaints and opposition will go away.
And Bob, it's from your standpoint as the owner of this property currently, or the principal chunk we're talking about, you're indifferent. You don't care about anybody making any changes at all, one way or the other.
I don't care either way.
Either. All right.
Okay, so do we just let amendment number 2 go?
Well, I haven't heard anybody proposing an amendment
We
to
voted it
move
down.
forward. Well, we voted
voted
it
it
down.
down, so unless someone has a
an alternative amendment,
language
we've
to
done it.
amendment too. We are done.
I think it's already done.
Next on the agenda, master plan survey questions. All right, we've had the public meeting and took a lot of questions and comments with regards to the master plan. Basically toward the vision for the town. And I guess it's time that we put together something that would start us out on the discussion of the vision based on that information. Tara, in a memo, told me also, just reminder for the board, when you meet at the last meeting, there was discussion about doing a master plan survey to follow up on some of the issues raised by the visioning session. Well, I think we have to put something together before we go to another meeting with the people and ask them questions. I mean, we should start with some sort of a statement that can be considered a vision statement that we can present. So does anybody have any ideas as to how they want to word a vision statement?
Well, is it a survey or a vision statement that you want?
I want a vision statement. She's asking for another survey. I don't think this is the time for another survey.
Oh, okay.
I think that we have to work on what we have at this point, and then if you want to do a survey, go back later with something you can present.
Well, could we try to make some points that we're trying to make in a vision statement?
Certainly. What I got out of the questions, I'll just start by listing some of the things that struck me. And that is that people are interested. There was a big contingent about education. So I think there are people that are concerned for good access to a good education.
Yeah.
And I'm very definitely avoiding the idea that it has to be a school here in town. I think the important thing is good access to good education.
Right, because it applies to pre-K as well as post-8.
Right. And however you can get that is good. Also think people want a vibrant community, a diversified community, old and young, in between, retired, working, a good diversification of the population. I think they want a vibrant economy. They want businesses. They want goods and services. But at the same time, I think they want to preserve the natural beauty,
Right.
the uniqueness of the town. And, the town at the end of the road atmosphere. It's removed from all the hustle and bustle, and that's what makes Waterville Valley unique, really. The unique feature of the town at the end of the road.
Stay for a lifetime. or something
Yeah.
like that. That's the- that's our motto.
Right, exactly. Those are the things that I took from it.
I struggle, and I keep struggling with one question in my mind. Would this town survive if we let the mountain deteriorate any further? And I can't,
We
Well,
don't have a
do you
decision
mean
to
by-
let.
well, I'm trying to think when, one of the things you talked about is vibrant commercial. That we need more commercial development, right, or something. I don't know, do we? Or should we just let it go?
I don't know whether it belongs in the mission statement, but
Oh, well,
you're addressing the perpetual.
I'm trying to answer a question, right?
Yeah,
Well,
the
to
perpetual
me,
question.
yeah, right,
Can this town survive if the mountain were to fail?
right.
And keep in mind, the mountain is not just the mountain, it's also the conference center.
Well, it's the conference
okay.
center, all of the business,
This
the
term,
current concept of commercial.
I think we've accepted what the
resort
term
community.
mountain means. But
I mean, it was a community before there was a mountain here. I mean, Waterville Valley goes back 100 years, all right? But it was a
And not
lot
with us-
different than it
not
is
with-
Oh,
today.
yeah,
Not with the
Yeah.
infrastructure that we have now that we need to maintain.
yeah, but that,
Well,
from my perspective, the matter of infrastructure also belongs in the mission statement. That
Right.
we have this unique infrastructure of fire, police, water, sewer, all of that, which nobody pays any attention to until something goes wrong. But that we, as part of the mission of the town, to maintain this high quality infrastructure.
Well, the way we're gonna do that potentially is, it's done basically by raising taxes, so. There will be a time, it'll be a question of the tax rate.
well, right, yeah, legally, yeah, right. I don't think you can unincorporate, right? Okay.
Well, Livermore did, I think.
Yeah,
Well,
but I don't know what happens.
Doesn't
Yeah, I don't
exist.
know either.
The county runs you. If you're
The,
unincorporated.
It's a hard question to answer, the one you raised, because we don't know what plans are for a significant chunk of the commercial.
Well, I would
property that was just
contend
purchased.
that just my own 2 cents, all right? That's all this is. That we are wedded to the notion of being basically a vacation resort oriented community. That's the only business that we're ever going to attract here in 20 years. Let's take a 20-year horizon. And that we need to be doing things to make that happen. Because nobody seems to be satisfied with where we are right now,
Well, that's correct.
right? And
I
we
think we
need to
heard
be doing,
expressions of
should we be doing something
people being
to make that
satisfied.
happen?
Well,
Well,
one of the things we are trying to do is increase the density in our commercial one.
Yeah, but that doesn't address, I
I'm not
would
sure what you're
contend
asking me.
I would contend the reason that people aren't creating businesses here is
Mm-hmm.
there's no demand for services.
no demand.
There's no demand. We don't have enough people. So either we've
Right.
got to increase the population of the town, or we've got to increase the transient population of the town. I mean, short of that, we're not going to get, I mean, why is anybody going to create a business here?
Yeah.
Because of the land is a little bit cheaper? I doubt it. It's getting cheaper all the time. And it isn't changing anybody's mind.
I'm sorry, what's the question then?
Well, then, it would seem to me that in the vision statement, the question that I have is should we be making a statement that we really need to come up with a way to encourage, more commercial development? And it's not, changing the zoning is one piece of it, but it's not enough. It's not that change in itself isn't gonna do much. I mean, it's a change in the right direction, I agree with that, but it isn't by itself gonna make a difference.
Right.
You gotta, unless we eliminate taxes on commercial property or something,
Well, we already offer.
well, I
Some
know
tax
you're
relief.
dealing with state law here, and you're limited in what you can do.
But that's not gonna create demand.
Right. What creates demand?
People.
Right. So we've got to think of a way. So part of, to me, the vision statement is you got to get more people in here.
So that would be along the lines of working with commercial property owners to,
It sounds like your discussion is more how to get to the vision.
right.
I think what you gotta do is establish the vision first, and then determine whether
Well,
or not.
and I would agree. I think that part of the vision has got to be that basically our vision is that this is going to be a resort oriented community for, for the next 25 years, 20 years.
Well, it has
Beyond
been
that,
for
I
over
don't know.
100 years. I mean, it's been a resort.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that.
But no, I'm agreeing with you.
What alternative is there? In fact.
I don't see any other alternative. I
Okay,
mean,
good.
people
We
like
should
to
stop
think
talking
that
about
the
it.
internet would make a difference. I don't think it would.
No.
So that we want to maintain our,
Well, we and what we haven't been doing as a town is doing a very good job in creating the kind of environment where that might thrive.
We're talking about marketing,
Well, I don't know, it's everything.
to sell the town.
Yeah,
That could be part of the mission, is to improve the town's ability to market itself.
right. Yeah,
I like that.
I'm trying to square how that works in a vision.
Right, I think
Statement.
saying that we maintain our resort-oriented community.
Yeah.
It absolutely.
well, the pushback to naturally, everybody wants to basically keep the land the way it is. They like the golf course, they like the views and everything else.
Yeah, but we have
Well, if you're gonna encourage more people, something's gotta change.
We've been trying.
well, we're not gonna alter the actual physical size of the town. And we're not
Right.
gonna alter the fact that we're in a national forest, and the national forest is not gonna give us anything.
Right, yeah,
They're not giving way to
no,
help the
No,
commercial development of Waterville Valley, so,
No.
no, we're here.
What would you propose?
And that's the reason that people want to be here.
well, I'm not sure what the plans are. But a part of the vision statement to me has got to be that that we need to emphasize that we need to get on with that. We need to develop and put in place plans that are gonna make a difference, whether they're marketing or whatever. I mean, but the status quo is not acceptable.
All you gotta do is look at the numbers.
Right, I mean, the place is in a state of decline. And we need to figure out a way to reverse it.
That is a mission.
So the
The town-
vision,
The town has been in a state of decline before. In the early 2000s, it was
Right.
in decline, but it worked its way out of it. The population has increased 50%.
Isn't our resident population actually increasing?
It has.
It has gone up. Mark knows that.
Yeah, it's
So
close to
what-
500 now, right?
So what is
Yeah.
your definition of decline?
Well, property values
Economy, the
declined,
stagnant
what,
economy.
there is
2007.
there's been
2008
no
have not recovered.
significant development in this town in the last 5 years, 10 years.
It's a development.
I think if
Right.
you asked residents how they feel about the
They have
skiing
that.
experience here and everything else, I don't think you'd get many positive responses.
That's correct.
But
I don't think you would. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people moving here love it.
Well, they may not necessarily be moving here for the skiing anymore. I think
Right.
that there are other things that the town's started to offer.
Well, we've tried to, with regard to hiking and so
Yeah,
forth.
and I think it's had its effect. I mean, I see a lot of people walking around town that seem to be enjoying the town for what it is.
Well, and
That's
people actually are moving for the academy. That's
Yeah.
what people are buying houses for.
Right.
That's correct.
Putting their kids in the academy.
But I think
Skiing.
perhaps what you're getting at too is the implementation of the study, the town core project,
Right.
being more pedestrian friendly, bike friendly,
Right.
all of that.
Well, I would certainly
That's-
support,
Those
you know,
can be
driving in all of those
Into,
core
a
study, I think
enhanced,
that's
so,
town core development thing. I think
some
that's
sort of
right.
statement that we are and have
Committed to
been
that.
And will
In
be
the
a
vision.
resort-based
Right,
community. And that we want to enhance that, and
right.
I'm struggling for words on the
Yeah,
fly.
no, I agree with you.
But that's what you're getting at.
Okay, I'll say also that the point is that it's still a ski-oriented community. We have far more condominiums here than we have any other type of housing. And those people who own those and who occupy them temporarily are here for skiing. That is, if it weren't for BBTS, how much, how many people own or come here every weekend because of BBTS?
But I would
Quite a
refine
few.
that to say a recreation-oriented community, because there are a lot of hockey
Yeah,
player
well,
families who
This
have
is true.
converted.
Hockey has some
There are
significant-
folks who
And
only come
seasonal
here in the
skiers.
summer and leave in
Yeah,
the
that's what
winter.
I'm talking about.
So it's recreation.
They're not BBQs.
No, but BBTS is a core.
Well, there are a
there's the
lot of
number of-
different cores, and yes, BBS is definitely one of
But
them.
if BBTS weren't here, how much business would town lose?
A lot.
It'd be significant.
But
Yeah,
same with
huge.
the hockey academy.
That's right.
Same with the
Mhm.
hiking trails. So I think, I'm just clarifying instead of saying they're skiing, I say we're recreation.
Recreation, resort, I mean, some words.
Resort, sports oriented, right.
Trying to
Yeah.
start with
Recreation,
the
sports oriented.
activity which has the largest share of
Outdoors, I
market.
mean,
Yeah.
come up with skiing. Come up with.
Oh,
outdoor-
absolutely. It starts with skiing.
That's the largest share of market. And that's where it's the dilemma. It's the problem. Can this town survive without skiing, without the?
Yes, with a higher tax rate.
But if we're
Yeah.
looking at, I mean, we
Okay.
are trying to focus on the vision statement here, right?
Yes.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different points we've made so far. I think that's a good way to start rounding out on a vision statement
Mhm.
without going too far down a rabbit hole here. Were there any other things that you were thinking, Terry, that you need to?
Well, I had put it together in a, I think it has to be a statement.
Yeah.
That everybody can pick apart and add to and so forth. And again, I see the vision as being this thing that's it's very general. Not how we're going to do it, not what we'd like to have it done like.
Right, it's aspiration.
It's what we would like to have in the end, what the goal is that we're trying to achieve with all of this discussion.
Okay.
Well, vision is
But-
always aspirational. You can never, should never be the goal exactly.
So I wrote this, and it's a place to start.
Cool.
Water Valley strives to be an environmentally conscious, diverse community with good access to good recreation, medical, and education. Medical facilities or something, fill in the word. It will have a vibrant and sound economy while preserving the natural beauty, tranquility, and unique town at the end of the road atmosphere. That's very general. And I don't think from the questions that I heard or the statements that were made at the public session, that anybody would have a problem with any of that. I think that they would basically say, in general, I think that's what we would like to have. Maybe some conflicting stuff in there, I don't really know, it's hard to say, but, how do you have tranquility and vibrancy?
The only question I'd rise would be medical.
Yeah,
I mean, we have an ambulance and we have good staff,
mhm.
but we don't have any medical facilities here.
Well, I'm not saying we have medical, I said access to.
Okay,
Same with the education.
Right.
access to is.
Yeah, I want to be as general as I can, because
Good
there are gonna
phrase.
be some people that are gonna say we have to have a school, some people say we don't want a school, but I'm sure everybody would want access to good education, yeah.
And there's a
If they
state
want
statute
children
that
in
says we have to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
We have to do it.
so, does anybody have anything to add to that? I mean, it's hard because I just read it, but,
Read it again.
okay. My printer only printed some of it, so I'm having to fill in here. Waterville Valley strives to be an environmentally conscious, diverse community with good access to good recreation, medical, and education facilities, let's say. It will have a vibrant and sound economy while preserving the natural beauty, tranquility, and unique town at the end of the road atmosphere.
Okay.
The only comment I would have is the first step. You start out by saying we were going to become environmentally conscious, diverse community.
Right.
Are they meant to be, when I read those in one sentence, my reaction is it's trying to say what? That we're environmentally conscious, or we want to be a diverse community in terms of the people we attract?
Both as a comma and then put it.
I think they can coexist.
You do,
Yeah.
okay?
Why not?
My reaction would be that people read that and are gonna struggle with what is an environmentally conscious, diverse community as opposed to a do we want to be a diverse community first and foremost, environmentally conscious as well?
But then it's an and as opposed to,
Right,
as opposed to.
that's my only comment.
Could change it to an and.
Excuse me, I think you want to support outdoor recreation. I don't think you have
Right.
that in there. I think that's the key to the town.
I know.
It's not,
Yeah,
yeah, this is
I
not
know.
really the right way to. do
Well-
this.
Or maybe you could email it around. to all of us
Yeah.
and we could-
Kind of needs like a whiteboard, you know, with all the
Okay.
points.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that,
We don't have them.
yeah.
is that this guy?
That's a whiteboard.
Want to do it that way?
I'm
Do you
just
wanna do it right
feeling,
now, or-
yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
if you want to email it, I mean, after
Yeah, no.
going on 2 hours, I don't know
Yeah.
how sharp we can.
yeah, I'm not
Maybe
exactly
think
sure
about
like,
it, I do think we need to.
because we had our
include something
consultant
on
run the meeting, like, I'm not
outdoor,
quite sure why she did not
right up
then
front.
take us through,
Outdoor
here's all the
recreation
things,
resort.
let's bring it together
At the
as a
very
board.
top.
and
Yes,
do this.
I
Like, why
want
isn't
it.
she doing this?
She can't be here today.
Yeah, but maybe next time.
Next time, maybe.
I mean, I think you have a great
of us.
start,
Yeah.
but I feel like
Yeah,
she
if
should
you
bring it together.
email it to all of us and Tara, and then
Okay,
we can see where. we
it's a
can-
start. It's a
Oh,
good-
yeah,
it is.
I think we
Yeah.
need
Good
something
start.
to,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exciting and I can't wait till we get this.
okay. Then we'll put that off until we have a better method of discussion. So Nick, what I'll do is I'll email that to you and you can distribute it.
Works.
All right. Okay, under other new business, at that meeting, it was, has to do with the master plan, but the subject came up about the planning board meetings being held at an inopportune time for working citizens, I guess. One individual was rather adamant about it, thinking that the planning board should meet at a time that's more convenient for other people to attend the meetings. So I said I'd bring it up and
Mhm.
we could discuss
Yeah,
it.
this is valid, I think.
I think it is valid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's particularly in terms of recruiting people that may be younger people that work to be members of the planning board. Right now, they couldn't do it. They could not do it at all.
It's the number one discouraging factor of participating in any of the boards. I mean, I frequently have to pay someone so that I can be here, and I shouldn't have to do that.
And just turning to our professional, Tara said, again,
Yeah.
Water Valley is unique in this, that towns
Yeah,
usually
we're
have
gonna
it.
lose Tara. You
Well,
know,
Yeah,
said she
where-
doesn't go to any.
And you go
other
back and
meetings.
look at the old wigwags, going back like 50 years, and it was 8 o'clock in the morning for the planning
Oh,
board.
it has it been?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's always-
it's been from day,
Tara said that this is the only daytime meeting that she attends.
Right.
right. So maybe this is one unique thing we could do without.
And we did make the big stride of moving town meeting to the evening, so, we could follow. everything else.
I mean, we're talking like 6 or something like that, I think, is that,
And I think it would encourage us to be a bit more concise as well.
because we're hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always a good reason. No, I certainly agree with,
I'm fine with the suggestion, but I put a question mark behind the number of times that the people who complained about this would actually attend the meeting.
I don't think it matters for the
Yeah.
specific people. I think it's a gesture showing that there are a lot
Right.
more working families in town now than there were 50
Okay.
years ago.
I will go along with it. I'm
another
just,
retirement.
Based on who showed up to that visioning meeting.
I'm just,
And
yes.
there were a lot of people that,
we didn't recognize.
yeah, right, exactly. I didn't recognize.
Well, there were a
them.
few non-residents who
Well,
attended the meeting.
you know,
They were,
but planning boards meetings, you don't have to be a resident.
No,
You
no,
have
that's
to
what I'm getting
Be
at.
a member
I
of
mean,
the planning
perhaps
board.
this would open that up for them to.
okay, let's see what happens.
What is the procedure for actually changing? Is that simply a board prerogative to change the time it meets on a monthly basis?
I kind of, well, Thursday is challenging for me personally, to meet at 6 o'clock because I have another commitment. So maybe we ought to ask around and see how many people have commitments.
Current board?
For the evening.
I mean, I could resign, that's not a,
Well, No, it's worth- it's worth
But,
discussion.
no, the problem is the
Do
other
I
commitment,
hear
I
a
can't let
motion?
go.
No, we don't want you to resign.
Now, wait a minute, let's not be hasty.
Well, we've got Monday through Friday, and,
But presumably weekends are off the table.
I would
Yes.
think so.
Yes.
That kind of
wouldn't wanna
hampers
meet on
the
a-
non-resident
No way.
attending, unless we move it to like a Friday.
Fridays.
Friday's
That's
a
a
bad
bad
day. Okay, so
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evening seem to be a non-starter. So we're down to
Monday, Tuesday,
Monday,
Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday,
Wednesday.
Wednesday, just to move this along.
Mondays aren't good for you. Can't
Okay.
prepare very much.
Right, so that leaves Tuesday or
Tuesday
Wednesday.
or Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday, it's, either one of those is fine.
Yeah, we don't have all,
Tara did tell you what her availability was. I don't remember.
I don't recall.
I don't know, because she's busy in the
But,
evening.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, she has all her other boards meet in
Yeah.
the evening,
Right.
so you're gonna need to look at
her
what
schedule.
she sent you, if you wanna continue with her, or
Right,
if you wanna
and the
seek
current board
another.
members,
And the other current
Yeah.
board.
board members. Well, it does look like.
Yeah, I
yeah,
would guess
okay.
we're gonna lose somebody on
It's
this board,
possible.
you know, if we move it tonight.
Okay with that?
Depends what day of the month too, perhaps.
You meet twice a month, right?
Once.
Once a month.
So-
Oh, no, that's okay, move it tonight.
So I think we agree that we're looking, we want to move.
We
it
don't
to-
all agree.
To six, you don't want to move it to 6 in the month, any,
I like it in the morning.
okay.
I think better in the morning.
Is there, I think the majority agree that perhaps there's.
It's a
I think
question of-
I think it's an issue that
Let me just
is,
take a bit.
if we can address it, we ought to try to address it. You know, I wouldn't,
would
you
address
know, if the consequence is we can't figure anything out, then you live with it.
Oh, I don't think it's any-
Could we just ask that it not be on the same day as the selectmen's meeting, because.
So that leaves Tuesday.
Well, it
Well, no,
does,
a
and
different
I'm
week,
just,
different
Well,
Wednesday.
different month, that's right. I mean,
well,
different.
yeah, but the selectmen don't always meet the second and fourth.
That's
They
right. That's
Sometimes
true,
meet
too.
the first and third. You have a lot of other considerations, so I just ask that we just not do it on the same day of the week. And now, maybe the selectmen want to move to a different day of the week, but, you know.
So
they can
that
have the
leaves out
same
Wednesdays.
conversation.
Right,
Well, we should put it out to the entire board too.
Yeah, we don't have to decide today.
but can we,
We can check with Tara and see what times are available for her and the
Right.
other board members, and the next month we can.
right, but it seems that we sort of maybe, perhaps have settled on Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Right,
On what we know right now,
Yeah.
pending what
right.
what
We're gonna
Tara says
have
and
to
what the, and what
poll
we
the other
look at our.
people and
poll the
find out
other
if they're
people.
willing to do it.
So shall we leave it there?
Yeah.
But let's make a decision, I think.
Well,
I mean, not, I mean,
I don't think you can make a decision until next month. because
no,
we're gonna
that's
talk
what I
about-
meant. I'm sorry. That's what I meant. Let's bring this to a decision next month.
Okay,
Okay,
enough of that.
yeah, I know.
Okay.
I prefer the meeting as well too, Terry. No, that's
Yeah,
what we think is best.
okay.
I like the idea of being hungry and moving along.
Committee reports, the town core group.
Yeah, we're, waiting on getting an engineering estimate. We've been focusing on the, bathroom structure that was proposed by the beach there. And looking into how it would interact with the proposed chapel. So, you know, we're moving very slowly in this moment in time. Right, Anthony? Yeah.
We're still looking at it as a pavilion, quote unquote.
Depending on how the engineering comes back.
Okay.
And possibly.
I mean, people have a
Separate
view of
thing.
what a pavilion is.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of thoughts.
But in terms of our new lexicon, it is a structure.
There, a structure.
It's a
is-
building.
it's a structure. And it would float
They will
in
not
the-
be latrine pits.
No.
Okay, that's better than a hole in the ground, but what I mean is it's actually like a gazebo.
Well, and possibly multiple
Shelter.
structures, you know, that the thought was we'd like.
It's not porta
In
potties.
addition,
Yeah.
right, in addition to the
Right.
facilities,
Okay.
there would be a spot to get out of the sun, but possibly a couple spots and just seeing how recommendations come
Changing,
back.
so that's still the way you got it.
That's the thought.
Thank you.
process.
Okay,
That's about it.
that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wendy. Conservation Commission, is anyone here from?
That's John, he's not here.
And the master plan review groups, I think at this time we'll stick with working with the vision, and then we can develop with the groups afterwards once we determine
Yes.
how we're gonna try to get there.
Probably need to get a meeting going. If not, I mean, not in the near future, but maybe after the vision statement where we all are. Just a meeting dedicated to the master plan.
Yes.
Where we want to go,
Workshop.
especially on
Workshop,
some of the changes. We'll have to look perhaps after town meeting, see if the changes that we propose are accepted.
Yeah.
And see how that might impact what we want to say.
Communications, regulating short-term rentals in New Hampshire webinar.
Yep. So that's coming up in 2 weeks. It's from noon to 1. If anybody wants to, last webinar I just threw up on the TV so that anyone that wanted to come would watch. I haven't registered for it yet because I haven't heard back from anyone if they're
It's next
Yeah.
week, right? It's next Wednesday.
Who
Next
is,
next one.
short-term, is the town, in the state of New Hampshire, is the town or the state responsible for writing rules here?
I don't know.
Is that
We'll
clear?
probably find
Can-
out
Can
at
we
the,
write rules on short-term rentals?
probably find out at the.
Well, no, you
Are
know,
you thinking like
maybe you will,
Airbnb?
right.
Are you thinking of Airbnb?
Well,
and
no,
LDR?
right. Well, I'm assuming that that's the issue, is Airbnb.
There are
That a lot of
towns-
those towns are struggling with, but I don't know if towns can write rules or
Well,
not.
There
I
are
went
towns.
to a class yesterday that addressed this, just touch base. It didn't
Right.
really go into it, but apparently the state is developing some of these
Right.
regulations now. And
Yeah,
they're helping
because
the towns.
unless
if
the
towns
state
are-
gives you the right to regulate it, you can't regulate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think there is information available. We can call
There are towns that are trying to write regulations regarding Airbnb under the current state law, and the legislature is looking at.
It's looking
modifying
at the
state
law.
So,
All right.
so there is definitely a move
some action.
in the state to do this.
There's nothing in our current,
And there's nothing in our
That addresses
current
Airbnb
zoning,
and LDR.
that's correct.
I won't be able to make this. one.
Unless you were to call it a home occupation, because you do control home occupation in the zoning ordinance. You do, but nothing
is-
specifically
this is a rent.
says short-term
Yeah,
rentals
that's a
or
valid issue.
anything like that.
I've listened to these webinars in the past and they're quite good. I recommend, unfortunately, I'll be out of town next week. I won't be able to make it. But this is an issue we probably should be addressing.
Did you send something out on that?
I sent an email when I first got it to see if there was any interest in it, and there were no responses. So I figured just bring it up at this
Yeah.
meeting, and we can register. It's free, and
Just sit here and watch it.
Yeah, I think if we just have one register and then we can put it up and you can make it.
Next Wednesday, 20th, 12 to 1. Bring your lunch,
Yeah, bring you on.
sit here.
Yeah.
They're very good. I'm sorry. I'm gonna miss it. Have it catered.
No, do not serve food. That's the first law of public meetings. No
Why?
food.
Because people will attend.
Because people will attend.
Wait a minute,
Stay.
that's, I think we were trying to move the other
Oh, oh,
direction.
is that-
Okay, do we have anybody else have any other business they want to bring up? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
I know I was getting.
I'm hungry.
No,
I'm taking coffee and donuts.
Nobody
They're
showed up
gone.
just for the,